occasion controversial, indeed historic, was the church's acceptance of Gene Robinson as the first openly gay bishop in all of Christendom.
There have been a lot of us, let's just be clear.
Robinson is quick to point out that there have always been gay bishops in the Episcopal Church.
I'm just the first openly gay one.
Our service continues with the great Thanksgiving on
Almost certainly the first Episcopal bishop with purple nail polish. This was, of course, a special occasion. A celebration late last fall commemorating his consecration as bishop 20 years ago. The congregation of St. Thomas Episcopal Church in Washington, D.C. is Bishop Robinson's parish these days. These are very much his people. And here he clearly feels more free, perhaps, to be himself. Purple fingernails and all.
It pleases me to no end. It's fanciful. I love purple. As you see, bishops wear a lot of purple.
Right.
And I thought, you know what? I'm 76 years old. I can get my nails painted.
On a more serious note, Bishop Robinson reflected back on the climate in which he had been labeled the most dangerous man in the Anglican Church.
We forget what a big deal it was, and how hard it was, and how many people were opposed, and the pain it caused a lot of people.
It had provoked immediate threats.
One of the earliest times was the day I was elected. I got my first death threat before I got home that day. And that was to continue for 2.5 years.
What was the nature of that threat?
I got a postcard, and it began, "You fornicating, lecherous pig."
At the time, Robinson was living with his partner, Mark Andrew, who later became his spouse. Robinson had previously been in a conventional marriage until he and his wife, Isabella Martin, decided to divorce.
We were married for almost 14 years and have 2 wonderful daughters and 2 granddaughters. I get to see her and chat with her all the time.
How about the daughters? When did they learn that Dad was different?
So they were 4 and 8, and I sat with the 8-year-old. I said, you know what a lesbian is, right? So the 8-year-old said, oh yeah, very casual. Oh yeah, most men like women and most women like men, but some men like men and some women like women.
Not bad.
That's an A+ right there.
Right.
So I said, I've learned that I'm one of those men who like men. And your mom and I have together decided that she deserves a chance to find someone who can love her that special way, and I deserve the opportunity to find someone to love in my way.
It's all history now. Almost 37 years since the divorce and since he came out publicly in his church. 20 years since he became a bishop. 9 years since he and Mark divorced. And through it all, Bishop Robinson has become something of an institution. The Smithsonian wants to display his vestments. He's often invited to speak these days here at Washington's National Cathedral. What a dreadful life your predecessors must have lived. The gay bishops who were not identified as such.
I can tell you from my own experience, and it's one of the things that led to my coming out, is it's an awful thing to stand in a pulpit and encourage people to live authentic lives when you know you're not being authentic. It's why I felt God called me out of the closet.
Do you ever feel, there's more to me than my sexuality?
I didn't want to be the gay bishop. I wanted to be a good bishop. But in control of that. The media was going to make me the gay bishop, whether I liked it or not. So what I decided was, if I was going to be the gay bishop, then I'd be the best damn gay bishop that I could ever be.
We must not proceed with this terrible and unbiblical mistake, which will
Controversial?
not the Anglican
Oh,
Church.
yes.
It will break God's heart.
Hundreds of parishes left the Episcopal Church, and it would be nearly 7 years after Robinson's election as bishop before Mary Glasspool, a lesbian, was elected suffragan, or assisting bishop of Los Angeles. Now, though, there are 5 openly gay bishops, including Bishop Thomas Brown of Maine and Bishop Jeff Mello of Connecticut. Bishop Robinson, who is retired, refers to as his legacy. As you look at the church today, how does it perceive the notion of a gay bishop?
I remember 2 different senior clergy assuring me that the fact that I was gay was not a concern. And of course it was a concern, but compared to what I think it might have been like for Mary and for Bishop Robinson, it really wasn't a concern. That people had moved, that we got clear that the church was not going to fall down. The people in Maine, I show up every Sunday at a different church. The first thing they say is, "Where is Tom?" Because they really want my spouse there.
Bishops Glasspool and Mello are also married.
I was never told if you're gay, it's going to be okay. But I heard over and over and over again, God loves you. My relationship with God is what got me through it all. And that's my greatest concern right now. When you say, are we tired of talking about our sexuality? I'm tired of it until I remember that there are still kids out there whose lives are being saved because they're seeing people who are living their lives openly.
50 years from now, what are they going to say about Bishop Robinson?
That he was a prophet, that he was courageous, and I think it costs a lot.
Just expand on that a little. What do you mean?
Yeah, there was a period in college where I thought maybe God hated me because I was feeling erotically attracted to women. Finally, kind of in the middle of the night, God said to me, no, it's about love, and I love you. If God hadn't said that to me, I don't think I'd be here.
I think Bishop Robinson, actually, given the history of our church, I think in 50 years, there will be a date on our calendar that will have his name to it, which is to say that he will be recorded in the calendar of saints.
Which brings us to the story of Matthew Shepard.
CBS News has an update for you tonight on the brutal murder of a gay college student in Wyoming.
In 1998, Matthew was 21, gay, and a devoted Episcopalian, so perhaps it was inevitable that he would become something of a symbol, even a martyr in the eyes of that church's first openly gay bishop. Refresh the public's memory. Tends to be kind of short.
Yeah, 2 young men took him out onto the prairie and beat him unmercifully. And then they did a very strange thing. They literally hung him on a fence so that when the first person who discovered him at first thought it was a scarecrow. He died 6 days later.
It was such a gruesome event, such a blatantly anti-gay hate crime, that Matthew's parents were reluctant to bury his ashes for fear that the gravesite would be desecrated. It wasn't until 20 years later, in 2018, that they turned to Bishop Robinson to ask if the National Cathedral might take their son's ashes. And here they rest.
And he's safe here from the grave being desecrated.
There was a solemn ceremony presided over by Bishop Robinson. Thousands attended, many from the LGBTQ community, not always welcomed by their own churches.
So I have 3 things I want to say to Matt.
In addressing Matt,
Jen, rest in this place.
Bishop Robinson was also speaking to them.
You are safe now. Oh yeah, and Matt, welcome home. Amen.
Who were you crying for?
Oh gosh, I was crying for all of my community who have died violently, punished, or being who they are, loving who they love. I feel like my whole life took me to that moment. Because I've been living my whole life with a foot in the church and a foot in the gay community, trying to explain one to the other, trying to get them to come together again, and for that 2 hours, it happened.
Bishop Robinson's commitment to the gay community and to his church have already been memorialized at St. Thomas Episcopal Church. Nothing nearly as grand as the National Cathedral, but this modest chapel has been named for him. I am not sure what I would do if I walked into this kind of an area.
It feels a little strange to me.
I saw my name up there, but fortunately it's not mine, it's yours. Next to the chapel is a columbarium, a repository for the ashes of select members of the congregation. There's a box with Gene Robinson's name on it.
There's something just lovely about knowing that that's all settled, and it's, just right next to the altar of the Bishop Gene Robinson Chapel. How could I want more than that?
They're going to sanctify you at some point or another. You're in danger of being sainted.
It's really embarrassing.
It is.
And it's not helpful.
Saint Gene?
Thou sayest.
Oh,
No,
yes.
of course not. Of course not. I feel like the least saintly person ever. But I know I'm not pure as the driven snow, but in my life, I'm happy with what I've done with what God has put in front of me.